The orbital station floated quietly above the curve of a blue world, circling it like a patient guardian. Inside its long silver halls, most workers were busy with daily routines. Doors hissed open and closed, machines hummed softly, and voices of engineers echoed through the corridors. But in one small corner of the station, silence rested like an uninvited guest. Arun sat in his room with the lights dimmed. The walls carried faint scratches from old repairs, and the single window showed the endless black of space sprinkled with faraway stars. A thin screen lay on his desk, glowing with maps of distant systems. Arun often lost himself in those maps, tracing paths through the stars he would never visit. His work on the station was simple and ordinary, yet his mind always wandered into the unknown. That evening, the room was unusually still. The hum of the air system felt softer, and the ticking of his old watch seemed louder than before. Arun leaned back in his chair, rubbing his tired eyes. He told himself he should rest, but something inside kept him awake. Perhaps it was the way the stars outside looked sharper, as if they were waiting for him. Without warning, the door slid open with a faint hiss. Arun turned sharply, startled. He had not called for anyone, and the station rules did not allow entry without request. His eyes widened when he saw a figure step inside. It was a woman, tall and calm, moving without sound. She closed the door behind her with no rush, as though she had every right to be there. Her steps were light, yet each one carried a strange weight. Arun felt as if the air shifted around her. She stood in the middle of the room, watching him. Her eyes did not wander or blink much. They were steady, fixed on him with quiet intensity. Arun froze, uncertain what to say. The silence stretched between them, and he felt his chest tighten. It was not fear exactly, but the kind of pressure that comes when something extraordinary breaks into an ordinary life. The woman wore a uniform unlike anything Arun had seen on the station. Its fabric shimmered faintly under the dim light, shifting colors in ways his eyes could not fully follow. The design carried no familiar symbols, no station mark, no flag of Earth or any colony. It was foreign, yet it seemed to belong perfectly to her. Arun cleared his throat, forcing out a shaky voice. "Who are you?" The woman did not answer right away. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, as if studying him. Her gaze held no anger or threat, but it carried a kind of certainty that made him feel exposed. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft, smooth, and calm, yet filled with authority. "You are the one I came for." Arun blinked, confused. "What do you mean? You came for me?" She took a slow step closer, and he felt his pulse quicken. She did not raise her voice, nor did she rush her words. "I have searched many places. This is where my path led me. And here you are." Arun tried to laugh, but the sound caught in his throat. "You must have made a mistake. I'm just an ordinary worker. There is nothing about me worth searching for." Her eyes remained on him, steady and unshaken. "You may believe that, but it is not true. You have something I need. Something my people need." Arun shook his head quickly. "Your people? Who are you talking about? You are not from this station, are you?" She did not answer his question directly. Instead, she stood still, as if waiting for him to realize something on his own. The silence stretched again, heavy yet calm. Arun felt the room shrinking around them, the walls pressing closer, the stars outside sharper and brighter. The woman finally moved again, lifting her hand slightly in a gesture that seemed both human and unfamiliar. "My name is Myra. I will not harm you. But from this moment, your life will not remain the same. I can explain, but you must listen with patience." Arun stared at her, still uncertain if this was real. He had lived on the station for years, surrounded by ordinary workers and engineers, hearing nothing stranger than news from other colonies. Yet this woman's presence felt like a piece of a larger story unfolding right in his small room. He wanted to demand answers, to call security, to deny everything she said. But at the same time, something deep inside him stirred. Her words carried a weight he could not ignore, as if part of him had been waiting for them all along. The silence returned once more. Myra's eyes stayed locked on his, unshaken, unblinking, as if she had already decided something important. Arun sat frozen, his maps forgotten, his world suddenly cracked open by the quiet arrival of a stranger. In that moment, he felt as though he no longer belonged only to himself. Arun sat frozen, his chair pressed against the wall as if he could push himself away from the woman standing in his room. She called herself Myra, and her calm eyes never left him. The steady rhythm of the air system and the faint hum of the station felt distant now. His small room, once familiar and safe, had turned into something else, something heavier. He swallowed hard and forced himself to speak again. "Why are you here? Why me? I don't even know who you are." Myra took another step forward, not threatening, but deliberate. She moved with the same quiet grace as before, her boots making no sound against the metal floor. The strange fabric of her uniform caught the dim light, its patterns shifting like waves. Arun had the unsettling thought that it was alive, responding to her heartbeat. "I am not here by mistake," she said. Her voice was soft, but each word carried weight, as if chosen carefully. "You may not see your own value, but my people do. You have something rare. Something we cannot find among our own." Arun shook his head quickly. "You are wrong. I'm not special. I fix minor errors in navigation files, I check data, I drink tea when I'm tired, and I fall asleep at my desk sometimes. That is my life. Nothing more." Her gaze did not waver. "You measure yourself by the small tasks you see. I measure you by what you do without knowing. The way you solve problems, the way you imagine paths others do not. That is why I am here." Arun opened his mouth to argue again, but the words stuck. He thought of all the nights he spent alone, tracing new routes through the star maps on his desk. He never spoke of it to anyone, because nobody cared about strange paths through space that had no use. Yet Myra spoke as if she already knew. His voice lowered. "How do you know about me? Nobody knows what I do here in my free time. I don't even send those maps anywhere." Myra's eyes softened, though her expression remained steady. "Because I have been watching. Not just you. Many others. But the pattern of your thoughts is different. It is like a signal we could not ignore." Arun leaned forward slightly, his pulse quickening. "You have been watching? How? Are you from Earth Command? Some secret division of the colonies?" She shook her head once. "No, I am not from Earth. I am not from your colonies. I am from beyond the line of your maps, from a people who do not reveal themselves unless there is great need." Arun stared at her in disbelief. He wanted to laugh, to dismiss her words as nonsense, but the calm certainty in her voice pressed against his doubts. She believed what she said, and that unsettled him even more. "You're saying you're not human," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "I am close enough for you to understand me," Myra replied. "I speak as you do, I walk as you do. But my people are not of Earth. We watch from the edges, and only when the balance tilts do we step forward." The room felt smaller again, as if the walls were listening. Arun stood slowly, his legs stiff, and backed toward the window. The stars outside glittered, endless and cold. He tried to steady his breathing. "If what you say is true, then why come here in silence? Why not go to the leaders, the council, the admirals? Why me?" Myra tilted her head slightly, considering his question. "Because leaders think of power and gain. Admirals think of strategy and control. You think differently. You see paths where others see walls. That is what we need. Her words hung in the air, and for a long moment Arun could not answer. He remembered how often the station supervisors dismissed his suggestions. They told him to stop dreaming, to stick to his tasks. He had always believed them. Yet Myra's eyes told him something else, something dangerous and alluring at the same time. Arun finally whispered, "And if I say no? If I refuse whatever it is you want?" Myra did not move closer, nor did her expression change. She simply said, "Then I will leave, and you will return to your maps and your routines. But the storm approaching will not care about your refusal. It will come all the same. With you, we may stand a chance. Without you, perhaps not." A shiver ran through Arun. Her words were not a threat. They were a statement of fact, delivered in the same calm tone as everything else she said. That made them even heavier. He looked again at her uniform, at the strange patterns shifting across it. He looked at her steady eyes, eyes that seemed to see more than his face, more than his body, eyes that reached into the part of him he tried to hide. For the first time since she entered, Arun realized that his life had already changed. Even if he told her to leave, even if he tried to forget, the silence she carried, the certainty in her gaze, and the weight of her words would remain with him. Myra finally broke the stillness again. "I will not force you. But you already feel it, don't you? The sense that this moment was waiting for you. The choice is yours." Arun lowered his eyes, unable to meet her stare any longer. His heart raced with fear and curiosity at once. The station outside his room continued its quiet routine, workers moving, machines humming, lights blinking. Yet in this small space, the world had shifted. He did not answer her yet. He simply stood there, torn between disbelief and the strange pull of destiny. And Myra, patient and calm, waited in silence. The silence between them stretched like a wire pulled tight. Arun stood near the window, his hands resting on the cool edge of the frame, while Myra remained still in the center of the room. The stars outside blinked faintly, as if listening to the unspoken tension. Arun finally found the courage to speak. "You say there is a storm coming. What storm? What danger could be so great that you would appear here, in my room, searching for someone like me?" Myra's calm face did not change. She gave a short nod, as if she had been waiting for this question. Then she moved toward the desk where his star maps glowed faintly on the screen. She lifted her hand, and to his shock, the screen shifted on its own, the maps bending and rearranging in patterns he had never programmed. Arun's eyes widened, and he stepped closer in spite of himself. "What are you doing?" he whispered. "I am showing you what waits beyond your borders," she answered. The star map zoomed outward, past the known colonies, past the familiar trade lanes. It showed dark areas, places Arun had only seen in scattered reports. Then strange symbols appeared, marks that were not part of any human chart. They spread across the stars like stains. Myra's voice softened. "These are not empty regions. They are being consumed. A swarm of machines moves through them, erasing everything in its path. Not ships, not cities, not even planets remain once they pass. Entire civilizations have fallen into silence." Arun's chest tightened. He tried to speak, but the words stuck. He stared at the dark marks spreading across the screen. It was not just destruction. It looked like hunger, as if space itself was being devoured. "This cannot be real," he said finally, shaking his head. "If such a thing existed, Earth Command would know. The colonies would have prepared. There would be warnings." Myra turned to him, her steady eyes locking on his. "Do you see any warnings? Do you hear any alarms?" "No. Because your leaders are blind to what grows beyond their borders. They see trade, politics, and small wars, but they do not look further. My people look further. We see what is coming." Arun swallowed hard. His heart pounded as he forced himself to ask, why me then? What can I possibly do against something like this? Myra's gaze softened, though it did not lose its intensity. Because you are not like them. Machines follow patterns. Armies follow orders. But you, Arun, you draw paths no one else sees. You think around corners others do not notice. That is what my people need. Your way of thought is not bound by the rules that trap us. Arun backed away slightly, shaking his head. I make maps for myself. That is all. I am not a soldier, not a leader. You are asking too much. Myra did not follow him. She stayed where she was, her hands resting lightly at her sides. I am not asking you to fight with weapons. I am asking you to lend your mind. To guide us where we cannot guide ourselves. Without this, my people may fall, and if we fall, your world will not be far behind. Arun felt his knees weaken. He sat heavily on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor. His room, once so ordinary, now felt like the center of a vast storm. A stranger, not even human, was asking him to step into a war beyond his understanding. He tried to calm himself. You keep saying your people. Who are they? What are they? Myra hesitated, and for the first time her gaze flickered, as though she was deciding how much to reveal. Then she said, we are watchers. We remain hidden because the galaxy often fears what it does not know. But we are not enemies. We live among the edges of stars, learning, guiding when needed, and sometimes protecting. This time, the threat is too large to face alone. That is why I stand before you now. Arun looked up at her, his eyes searching for any sign of deception. Yet she stood calm and steady, her presence unshaken. She truly believed every word she spoke. That belief pressed heavier on him than any threat could. He rubbed his hands together nervously. And if I agree, what happens then? Myra stepped closer, her voice still soft but carrying strength. Then you will come with me. You will see what lies beyond the maps you draw. You will stand among my people and use your mind where machines cannot follow. It will not be easy. But it will matter. Arun sat in silence, his thoughts racing. Part of him wanted to laugh and send her away. Another part wanted to believe, because deep inside, he had always felt there was something waiting for him beyond the stars. Something he could not name. Myra seemed to sense his struggle. She did not press him further. She only said, you do not have to decide this moment. But know this, Arun. The storm is moving closer every day. You can return to your quiet life, or you can choose to step into something greater. The choice is yours. Arun lifted his eyes to hers, and again he felt the weight of her steady gaze. It was as if she had seen this moment long before he did, as if she had always known he would stand at this edge. He looked back at the map, at the spreading darkness swallowing the stars. His heart beat faster, not from fear alone but from the strange pull of destiny. For the first time in his life, Arun felt that his small room was no longer big enough for the questions burning inside him. And Myra waited, patient and silent, for his answer. The decision weighed on Arun like a stone pressing against his chest. Myra stood in silence, patient as always, her calm eyes never leaving him. Outside the small window, the stars stretched endless and cold, and for the first time, Arun felt as if they were calling to him. He had always loved studying maps, tracing new routes, and imagining paths beyond known space. But those were dreams, harmless games played in his quiet room. Now those dreams had become real, and they carried a weight he had never imagined. That night, he barely slept. His mind kept replaying Myra's words, the sight of the spreading darkness across the star map, and the calm certainty in her voice. When he finally closed his eyes, he dreamed of stars falling into silence one by one, until only his small room remained. By morning, his decision had taken shape, though it frightened him. He found Myra waiting, as if she had known his answer before he spoke. She gave a single nod when he told her. "I will come," Arun said quietly, his voice trembling. "I don't know if I can do what you ask, but I will try." Myra's expression did not change much, but her eyes softened. "That is enough. The rest will come in time." She guided him through the station's narrow corridors, moving with the same silent grace as before. Nobody stopped them. It was as if Myra had wrapped them in a veil that kept them unseen. Arun's heart raced, yet no one glanced their way. He began to understand that her people's reach was greater than he had imagined. They arrived at a docking bay far from the busy central hubs. The air smelled faintly of fuel and cold metal. Arun had walked these bays many times, but what he saw now froze him in place. At the edge of the bay, beyond the glass shield, floated a vessel unlike any human design. It shimmered faintly, its surface curved and flowing like water, without the sharp lines of Earth ships. Light ran across its skin in quiet waves, as if the ship itself was alive. Arun pressed his hand against the glass, breath caught in his throat. "That is your ship?" he asked. Myra stood beside him. "It is ours. It will carry you where you need to go." The bay door opened, and a bridge extended toward the vessel. Arun followed Myra with hesitant steps, each one echoing louder in his mind. His heart pounded harder as the station fell behind and the alien craft loomed closer. When they entered, Arun expected a cold and strange interior. Instead, the ship felt warm and alive. The walls glowed faintly, casting a soft light that shifted as they walked. The air was clean, carrying a subtle scent of rain. He touched the wall, and it pulsed gently beneath his fingers, like the heartbeat of a living creature. "This is not metal," Arun whispered. "It is grown, not built," Myra replied. "Our ships are part of us. They respond to us. You will learn to walk with them in time." Arun's wonder grew with every step. The corridors curved smoothly, guiding them toward a central chamber. There he saw others waiting. The crew stood in silence, their eyes following him with calm curiosity. Their uniforms shimmered like Myra's, and their movements carried the same quiet grace. For a moment, Arun's courage faltered. He felt small and out of place, a simple worker among beings who seemed more than human. But Myra stepped forward, raising her hand slightly. "This is Arun. He has chosen to walk with us." The crew gave a single nod in unison. No words were spoken, yet Arun felt the weight of their approval. Myra led him deeper into the chamber, where a vast screen spread across the wall. It displayed the stars with a clarity he had never seen. The constellations looked sharper, brighter, alive. Then the image shifted, showing once again the dark stain of the swarm spreading across distant systems. Arun felt his stomach twist as he stared at the slow advance of destruction. Myra's voice was steady. "This is why we need you. We have fought the swarm before, but it learns quickly. It studies patterns and adapts. Every battle becomes harder. We need a mind that does not think in patterns alone. That is why I came for you." Arun tore his eyes from the screen and looked at her. "And if I fail?" Myra held his gaze, her voice calm. "Then we fall. But you will not fail, because you see paths that others cannot. That is your gift, even if you do not believe it yet." Arun turned back to the stars. For years he had drawn secret maps, tracing invisible lines through the void. He had thought it was only a way to escape boredom. Now those lines might become real, guiding ships through danger, saving lives. The thought both terrified and excited him. The ship shuddered gently, and Arun realized it was leaving the station. Through the wide screen, he saw the docking bay shrink away, the station turning small against the curve of the planet. His home, his quiet life, his safe routines, all of it slipped behind him. The stars opened wider before him, endless and vast. He felt both smaller than ever and greater than he had ever dared to imagine. Myra stood beside him, her calm presence steadying his fear. "You have crossed the threshold, Arun. There is no turning back now." Arun's chest tightened, but he nodded slowly. He had chosen this path, and for the first time in his life, he was stepping into something larger than himself. The ship glided smoothly through the dark sea of space. Arun stood near the wide viewing screen, watching the stars drift past. Each light felt sharper than before, each world beyond reach, yet somehow closer now that he was no longer tied to the station. His life had changed in a single choice, and though fear lingered in his heart, there was also something else rising inside him: wonder. Myra walked quietly beside him, her presence calm as always. The crew moved in silence, focused on their tasks. Arun could not understand the ship's controls, but he noticed how the crew's gestures seemed almost like a language of movement, each shift of the hand guiding the vessel as if it were alive. After some time, Myra led him into a chamber filled with glowing charts. Unlike the human star maps he knew, these stretched outward in layers, showing not only positions of stars but also streams of energy, gravitational tides, and patterns invisible to the human eye. Arun stared in awe. "This is our navigation hall," Myra said. "Here we test paths, search for weaknesses, and prepare our movements. I brought you here because it is time you begin." Arun stepped back, shaking his head. "Begin what? I don't know how to read this. I can't even understand half of what I'm seeing." Myra turned to him, her eyes steady. "You do not need to understand everything. You need only to see differently. Machines can read numbers faster than any of us, but they cannot imagine. You can." Her words pressed against him. He wanted to deny them, to insist that she had chosen the wrong person. Yet a part of him remembered the countless nights he had traced strange lines across human maps, inventing paths that made no sense to others. Perhaps this was what she meant. The charts shifted, showing the swarm once again. Dark shapes like endless shadows moved across the screen. Myra explained softly, "These machines adapt. Each time we strike, they learn. They predict our moves. But they cannot predict what they do not understand. That is where you come in." Arun felt his chest tighten. "And if I cannot do it?" Myra's voice was calm. "Then we fall. But I do not believe you will fail." Her trust was heavy, heavier than any order or command. Arun lowered his eyes, then looked again at the charts. He took a deep breath and stepped closer. "What do I do?" Myra motioned to the glowing lines. "Tell us what you see. Not with numbers. With your mind." Arun studied the shifting swarm. At first it looked like chaos, but slowly he noticed a rhythm in their advance. Lines of movement curved like rivers across space. He frowned, leaning closer. "They move in waves. Always in 3 directions at once." But here he pointed at a gap forming between 2 streams. "They never close the space fully. If you strike here, you could cut one side from the other." The crew turned their eyes toward him. No one spoke, but Myra gave a small nod. "Show us again." Arun hesitated, then continued. He traced invisible lines with his hand, marking places where the swarm curved too sharply or where their patterns overlapped. Ideas spilled from him faster than he expected. His voice grew steadier with each word. When he finished, silence filled the chamber. The crew looked at him with unreadable expressions. Then Myra spoke, her tone soft but certain. "You see what we cannot. This is why you are here." Arun stepped back, his hands trembling. He had only spoken what came naturally to him, yet the crew listened as if his words mattered. The weight of that realization pressed on him. For the first time, he understood the true meaning of Myra's choice. His thoughts were no longer just private games. They could decide battles, even survival. That night, he lay in a small chamber given to him on the ship. The walls glowed faintly, breathing like a living heart. Arun stared at the ceiling, his mind restless. He felt pride for what he had seen in the charts, but also fear. If Myra and her people trusted him too much, and if he failed, then both their worlds might fall. He turned on his side, closing his eyes. In the silence, he remembered Myra's steady gaze. She had looked at him not as a burden, but as if she already knew he would rise. That thought kept him awake long into the night. Days passed, and Myra tested him again and again. Each time, she gave him new patterns to study. Arun stumbled at first, unsure, but slowly he grew confident. The crew began to nod at him, small signs of respect. They spoke little, but he felt their acceptance. Still, the fear never fully left. Every new test reminded him of the danger waiting in the dark. Myra never pressed him with harsh words. She only watched, guiding gently when needed, always calm. Arun realized she was carrying a burden of her own, though she never showed it. One evening, after a long session in the navigation hall, Arun asked her quietly, "Why do you trust me so much? You hardly know me." Myra looked at him, her eyes steady as always. "Because I see the path ahead, and you are part of it. I do not need to know everything about you. It is enough that you are here." Arun held her gaze, then looked away, his heart heavy and light at once. He still feared the battles to come, but he no longer doubted why she had chosen him. The weight of choice was his, and he had accepted it. The days of training ended faster than Arun expected. He had barely begun to understand Myra's people, their ship, or even himself when the warning came. A deep vibration ran through the living walls of the vessel, and the lights shifted to a sharper glow. The crew moved quickly, silent but purposeful. Arun felt his stomach tighten. Myra entered his chamber. Her calm face was steady, though her eyes carried a weight he had not seen before. "The swarm is near," she said. "It is time." Arun followed her to the command chamber. The wide screen filled with the stars of open space, but now those stars were broken by movement. At first it looked like a storm of shadows, countless dark shapes shifting as one. Then Arun realized each shadow was a ship, thousands upon thousands, moving with perfect rhythm. The swarm had arrived. His knees weakened, but Myra's hand on his shoulder steadied him. "Breathe," she said. "Fear is natural, but you must look past it." The crew took their places, their hands gliding over the glowing surfaces that pulsed with light. The ship seemed to breathe with them, ready to act. Arun stood near Myra, trying to calm his racing heart. He remembered the patterns he had studied, the gaps he had seen. This was no longer practice. The swarm advanced like a tide, spreading across the screen. Their movements were terrifyingly precise, shifting lines to surround Myra's fleet. Arun counted quickly. There were fewer of Myra's ships than he had expected, each one elegant but fragile compared to the endless swarm. His throat went dry. "They will overwhelm us," he whispered. "Unless you guide us," Myra replied softly. The first clash began. Bright lines of energy cut across the darkness as Myra's fleet fired. The swarm responded instantly, adjusting their formation. Their counterattack struck like a storm, shaking the ship with a deep rumble. Arun gripped the edge of the console, his heart pounding. Myra looked at him. "Now, Arun. What do you see?" He forced himself to focus on the swarm's movements. At first, panic blurred his vision, but then the rhythm appeared again. The swarm curved in waves, pressing from 3 directions at once. Arun leaned forward. "They are leaving the center too thin. If we strike here, we can break their rhythm." Myra gave a nod, and her crew moved at once. The ship shifted, darting forward with sudden speed. The fleet followed, cutting into the weak spot Arun had pointed out. Explosions lit the void as several swarm ships broke apart. For a brief moment, the enemy's perfect formation faltered. The crew glanced at Arun. No words were spoken, but he felt their silent trust. His chest swelled with both fear and pride. But the swarm adapted quickly. Their lines bent and closed the gap, pressing harder. Arun's pulse quickened as he searched the screen. They are pushing us into a trap. We need to pull back here and then turn sharply to the left. They won't expect that angle. Myra gave the order, and again the fleet moved. The swarm rushed to close in, but the sudden shift broke their timing. Myra's ship slipped free, striking from a new direction. More swarm vessels fell in burning fragments. The battle raged on, each moment filled with tension. Arun's voice grew steadier as he called out moves, each one breaking the enemy's rhythm. He was not giving orders like a commander, he was pointing out paths, lines of movement no machine could predict. Myra's people followed him without hesitation, their silent trust giving him strength. Hours passed like minutes. The swarm never stopped pressing, but each time Arun found a way to twist their rhythm, forcing them back step by step. Explosions lit the stars, and the ship shook with every strike, but Myra's calm presence steadied him. She never looked away from him, her eyes steady as if reminding him that he was not alone. At last, a great opening appeared. Arun saw it clearly, a gap stretching wide in the enemy's formation. His heart raced. Now. Strike there with everything. If we hit it hard enough, they will fall back. Myra gave a sharp gesture, and the fleet poured their fire into the gap. The void filled with light as the swarm buckled under the sudden assault. One by one, their ships pulled back, retreating into the dark. The storm of shadows thinned, fading into the endless stars. Silence filled the command chamber. The crew lowered their hands, the glowing surfaces dimming to calm light. Arun stood frozen, his chest heaving, his hands trembling. He could hardly believe it, they had survived. Myra turned to him. Her calm eyes, steady through the entire battle, now carried something new. Quiet pride. You guided us well. Without you, we would not have stood. Arun shook his head, struggling for words. I only saw the paths. You fought the battle. You saw what no one else could, Myra replied. That is what saved us. Arun looked again at the stars, where the swarm had retreated. He knew this was not the end. The machines would return, stronger and wiser. But for now, they had pushed back the darkness. And deep inside, Arun felt something change. He was no longer just a man from a small station. He had faced the void and found his place in it. The battle had ended, but the void still held its quiet weight. Arun stood on the deck of Myra's ship, looking out at the stars. The swarm had retreated, but he knew it was only a matter of time before it returned. Yet the fear that had gripped him in the first days of training had softened into something else. Pride, courage, and the strange warmth of purpose flowed through him. Myra approached silently, her calm presence as steady as always. You did well, she said. Her voice carried the same soft authority, yet it was warmer now, like sunlight touching cold metal. Arun turned to her, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and relief. We survived, he said quietly. But they will come back. I don't know if we can stop them next time. Myra's eyes held his gaze. Perhaps. But today, humanity has proven its worth. You have shown that thought, creativity, and courage matter even in the face of overwhelming force. That is what saved us. That is what makes us strong. Arun swallowed hard. He had never thought of himself as extraordinary. All his life, he had been ordinary, tracing star maps in secret, dreaming of paths he could never take. Now, he realized those dreams had prepared him for this. Every map, every idea had led him here, into the stars and into a purpose greater than himself. He looked around the ship. The crew moved silently, returning to their stations with calm efficiency. They no longer seemed alien to him. Each gesture, each movement, carried meaning. Arun understood now that they were not simply machines or soldiers, they were a people connected to their ship, to the stars, and to each other in ways he could begin to grasp. Myra gestured toward the main viewing screen. It showed distant systems, some untouched, some marked with faint signs of the swarm's advance. Arun traced the paths with his eyes. "We can save them," he said, a spark of hope lighting his voice. "We can stop the darkness before it spreads further." Myra nodded. "And you will help us. Your mind sees what no one else can. You are no longer just an observer. You are part of this mission. Part of us." Arun felt a strange warmth in his chest. He remembered the first night she entered his room in silence, her eyes fixed on him as if he already belonged to something beyond himself. At the time, he had not understood. Now he did. Her gaze had seen his place in the universe long before he did. He turned back to the stars. They stretched endless and infinite, and for the first time, he did not feel small. He felt connected. Each light, each planet, each moving shadow in the distance was part of a larger story, and he was part of it too. "Will the swarm return?" he asked, still cautious. "Perhaps," Myra said. "But we have learned. We have survived. And now, we are stronger. We have each other, and we have you." Arun looked at her, and a quiet smile formed. "I never thought I could matter this much." "You do," Myra said simply. "You always have. You just did not see it yet." The ship moved forward, gliding silently through the stars. Arun stood at the front, feeling the pulse of the living walls beneath his hands. He realized that he belonged here, not just on the ship, not just with Myra and her people, but among the stars themselves. His life had shifted from a quiet room on a station to the vastness of space, filled with possibility and purpose. For the first time, he imagined the future not just surviving, but helping civilizations, charting paths through danger, and discovering places no human had ever seen. He would face more battles, yes, and challenges that seemed impossible. Yet he knew now that he was ready, because he had finally found where he belonged. Myra stood beside him, silent but steady. Arun turned to her. "I understand now," he said softly. "I belong here, with you, with all of this." Her calm eyes met his, and a hint of a smile touched her lips. "You have always belonged, Arun. You just needed to see it yourself." The stars stretched before them, endless and brilliant. The darkness of the swarm was still out there, lurking beyond the farthest reaches, but it no longer felt overwhelming. Arun knew he had a place in the light. He had a mind to guide, courage to act, and people who trusted him. He took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the quiet energy of the ship, the hum of life, and the vast expanse of space. This was more than a mission. It was a home. And for the first time in his life, Arun did not feel small. He felt limitless, ready to step forward into the stars and face whatever came next, knowing he was not alone. The silence of space was no longer empty. It was filled with purpose, connection, and belonging.